Good morning, Anne Arundel County. Good morning, America. Welcome to Promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with Class. I'm your host, Anthony Fine. The name of our production company is the Glenn Burney Players. Again, good morning. These are exciting times here in Anne Arundel County. So we're going to go over a couple things and as the show progresses, and you're going to see these are the times to appreciate where we live. Now, as far as this week's show is concerned, first, we want to give credit where credit is due. We use Wikipedia for resources, but we also use DalaiLama.com as a resource. And you're going to find out a little more about that later on in the show. So let's start. A few weeks ago, I stumbled as I tried to remember the name of a great American journalist, statesman. How could I have forgotten the name of Paul Harvey? A voice of silk, a voice of gold. Now, before we go over the fundamentals, I want to do a little screen sharing with you, okay? Here we go. Paul Harvey, as far as the fundamentals are concerned, is born 9/4/1918, died 2/28/2009. His show, The Rest of the Story, ran from 1951. It was a radio show, 1951 to 2008. So when I read about his past, I see that he knew what he wanted to do as a very, very young person. And I think that's just fantastic when you know what your destiny is going to be. Harvey was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His father was a police officer who lost his life in a call of duty. Now, this guy tinkered with radio receivers as a young boy. I remember seeing a movie. It's called The Grapes of Wrath. And during the Depression, you could actually order magazines, or instructional magazines on how to make radios. I remember seeing a scene from the movie about that. Now, a teacher was so impressed with this guy's voice that she recommended him for a job over at KBOO in Tulsa in 1933. He started out by cleaning floors, just like somebody else that I admire by the name of Booker T. Washington. Eventually, he got some airtime, and he worked his way into radio, moving when he needed to move, being promoted when he was good. Later on, he moved to Hawaii to cover the Navy. As we know, the Navy's always had a great presence in Hawaii. But after the attack in Pearl Harbor, he, like so many other young men, enlisted. He actually enlisted in the military, but his military career was short. And he went right back into radio, now in Chicago. The rest of the story started off as a tagline for other projects and stories he was working on. But along the way, he developed important relationships with important people, to include the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. This helped him out later on, but that is a different story. So his show went national in 1951. What I did is I listened to two of his broadcasts to help me remember, because it was a staple, but it had been so long. His style was so smooth. His command of the English language was just perfect. Like I said, this guy was golden. And they're easy to catch his shows. Just type in The Rest of the Story. It's just pure Americana. So as far as people that I admire, yes, Paul Harvey is right there. Okay, we're going to stop sharing. We're going to move on to the next story. There we go. All right, so Anne Arundel County, something of importance, something of significance. Lately, we've been talking a little bit about infrastructure. A certain infrastructure that's always important to all communities are community churches. Well, I should say churches, because the church has to be somewhere. So it's going to be in your community. In 1692, a place called Old Hallow Church was created. Currently, it's located in 864 West Central Avenue in Davidsonville, which is, again, in Anne Arundel County, right off 301. Now, while the records go back to 1692, the building was constructed in 1710. So it's not quite clear what was happening there. Maybe they were sharing churches with others. Maybe they were just working out of people's homes. I don't actually know there. The interior was gutted by a fire in 1727. It was modernized in 1825 and again in 1885. So this one church has had a very solid following in that particular area. People came because with churches, we know that they run because of the individuals in the area. That's what makes churches go. In 1940, after another fire, the building was restored to the original 1710 appearance. Now, to prepare for the show, I decided to take a look at their website. The current leadership of this Episcopalian church is very concerned about its past. So concerned that they established a Truth and Reconciliation, committee or project, much like Nelson Mandela established in South Africa when he first took power many, many years ago, while he was with us. That's a great statesman for another day, by the way. So again, they're very concerned about past sins, essentially. 2014, they observed the 150th anniversary of the statewide abolition of slavery, in Maryland. And 2020, the Episcopalian Diocese of Maryland committed to creating a $1 million fund for some sort of reparations. So what they're arguing is that it was because of slave labor that the church was able to be created. It was because of slave labor that in some manner, or maybe just discrimination, maybe just the fact that they didn't allow Black folks to worship. Maybe that's part of it also. In either case, these are the steps they've taken to deal with what they believe are wrongs that they've committed. It's a beautiful structure. I took a look at one. It's just an old church. Again, church is just the building, right? What's happening in that church. But it's definitely hollow ground as far as I'm concerned. Hollowed grounds, I should say. Okay. So one last thing. You're probably ready for a little bit of a change as it relates to this part of the program, because we've been doing a lot of poems. So I decided to take a look at different types of acceptance speeches. And one that we had not covered was anything from the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. So that's the reason why we're looking at the DalaiLama.com, because this particular acceptance speech, which I'm only going to read a little bit of, involves the Dalai Lama. So let me read it. Your Majesty, members of the Nobel Committee, brothers and sisters, I'm happy to be here with you today to receive the Nobel Prize for Peace. I feel honored, humbled, and deeply moved that you should give this important prize to a simple monk from Tibet. I am no one special, but I believe the prize is a recognition of the values of the true value of altruism, love, compassion, and nonviolence, which I try to practice. In accordance with the teachings of the Buddha and the great sages of India and Tibet, I accept the prize with profound gratitude on behalf of the oppressed everywhere and for all those who struggle for freedom and work for world peace. I accept it as a tribute to the man who founded the modern tradition of nonviolent action for change, which is Mahatma Gandhi, whose life taught and inspired me. And of course, I accept it on behalf of the 6 million Tibetan people, my brave countrymen and women inside Tibet, who have suffered and continue to suffer so much. They confront a calculated and systematic strategy aimed at the destruction of our national and cultural identities. The prize reaffirmed our conviction that with truth, courage, and determination as weapons, Tibet will be liberated. No matter what part of the world we come from, we are all basically the same human beings. We all seek happiness and try to avoid suffering. We have the same basic human needs and concerns. All of us human beings want freedom and the right to determine our own destiny as individuals, as people. This is human nature. The great changes that are taking place everywhere in the world, from Eastern Europe to Africa, are clear indications of this. In China, the popular movement of democracy was crushed by a brutal force in June this past year. But I do not believe that the demonstrations were in vain, because the spirit of freedom was rekindled among the Chinese people, and China cannot escape the impact of this spirit of freedom sweeping many parts of the world. The brave students and their supporters showed the Chinese leadership the world's human face of that great nation. Now, I'm going to skip to the very end here. I pray for all of us, I pray for all of us, oppressor and friend, that together we succeed in building a better world through human understanding and love, and that in doing so, we may reduce the pain and suffering of all sentient beings. Thank you. The speech was delivered at the University of Allah in Oslo, which is in Norway. The date, 10 December 1989, which is interesting in that that's the date I got married. So folks, you got a double whammy this week. Well, again, these are exciting times. We have a couple productions that are right around the corner. I was in touch with my editor for episode 8, and I think we're just about there. There's another production that I'm fanning out tonight, and they're both from Don't Get Fooled Again, 8 and 9, and we'll be talking more about those soon. So for everyone here at Don't Get Fooled Again, for everyone here at the Glen Burnie Players, I'm Anthony Bynum. Until next time, for promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with class. Bye-bye.